Did you see that Bloober said that they down to make more remake or even an original Silent Hill is just up to Konami to greenlight it? I did not see that. That's really cool though. That's what I was expecting though. Given how well this game seems to be doing, at least reception wise, I don't know how it's been doing sales wise. That tends to be more important to these companies, which makes sense. But reception wise, it's been amazing, right? So you'd hope that Konami would greenlight it, but I would love to see them do the rest of the 4 original ones because of the limitations of the PS1. Maybe they have a little bit more space there to creatively add more to it. Konami needs to make a comeback somehow. They've been given a solution. Absolutely. I am very worried for the Metal Gear remake though. I think that one is being done in-house. They haven't shown any studio behind it. But also what worries me is that it truly just seems to be a very basic remake in comparison, because they're keeping all the lines. They're not re-recording any voice lines. They're not doing anything, which I guess a lot of people will appreciate because it's like Kojima's writing and whatnot, which has its positives and its negatives. But I feel like more could be done instead of just literally recreating the game one for one. This is very similar to the original. I've seen parts change heavily, like things that are big boss fights in remake were not as much in the original as far as I remember. Because I think there needs to be more of a change, not for change's sake, but I think it's just because some things weren't great in the original, independent of what game it is. No game is perfect. I genuinely think that it would have been good to have a level of like change in dialogue or even like pacing, even with something like Metal Gear Solid 3. Not an extreme, not anything crazy, but just like this changes quite a few things up, but not in like, oh, it's changing the story, right? Or it's changing. But that one is, as far as we know, a 1-for-1 because it's, again, using the exact same dialogue, the exact same map. The maps aren't being changed. And there's so much more you could do with it now. Even if you're not changing the map, the whole design of the maps for something like any of the Metal Gears was as puzzles for you to be able to navigate using stealth or other things. And I think with Metal Gear alone, you look at any of the later ones and you can see that some of the areas in Metal Gear Solid 3 were very much something that Kojima was able to realize with something like Ground Zeroes, where there's quite a few areas in 3 where it's a base, right? And you have to get through the base, and he wants you to try it in different ways, different methods, and that's very similar to something like Ground Zeroes, or a base in Metal Gear Solid 5. But it was a lot more limited. So given that they've been saying that they're not really gonna change gameplay that much, other than updating controls and stuff like that, I wish that they would because of that, because there's been a lot that's been pushed forward in the ways that Metal Gear Solid 3 was limited. Because that's what this does. Seems, as far as I know, to be pushing forward Silent Hill 2 in all the ways that they weren't able to back in the day due to limitations. Yeah, that's why I'm like, the Metal Gear port seems like a much lazier job. In comparison to the perception that people possibly even had before this release, where people were kind of shaky on it. Because this turned out to be great. So it may turn out to be great, but even if it turns out to be great based on, again, them not changing anything, I feel like they could have done more. Just like how this did more and kind of rebalanced the experience as a whole. Apparently the trailers for this remake were pretty bad and didn't do the game justice, so who knows? Yeah, I hope so, but they've been showing a lot of Metal Gear. They've been doing a lot of extended, just like showing some of it, and it seems very one-to-one. And this, what I'm about to say may be very different when you actually play it, because it was very different with this. But they don't look good. It looks high resolution, and this is less from a technological standpoint, but more from like a creative. The characters look weird. Their facial features and stuff. So much so that people have been making fun of like how Ocelot looks. He looks weird. It may just be like perception with that. So that's kind of like how I feel, but again, we will see. We will see how it turns out. I think the saddest part is that it took all these terrible things happening to Konami for them to realize that they lost something special, you know? And to be honest, it took the pandemic for them to realize that they shouldn't put all their eggs in the stupid pachinko basket. But we'll see. It's one of those things. These are just opinions based on what we've seen. It may end up being very different. Maybe it end up being a lot better. Or it may be very much like that. I feel like there's a reason too why so many people tend to be more cynical about these things, because in recent years, a lot of that cynicism has been true, right? Sadly, our worst expectations have been true so many times, not always, but so many times, that I feel like it ends up making sense why that has been the perception with a lot of them, especially also specifically with Konami, especially with the history of the thing they've done. I feel it's going to be a limiting factor, I guess, just to close it out with that about that. I think that the decision that they made with how to go forward with the Metal Gear remake, at least, is going to be a limiting factor for them.